Hi friends, this is NJ, your host on this channel. So we are going to start our discussion on understanding the different archetypes. In this video, we are going to understand the Jupiterian archetype to the core. So before we'll start our discussion on the Jupiterian archetype, just a quick recap of all what we have studied and discussed in the previous introductory video. We have discussed that in the art and science of palmistry, there are two most important tools. First is just by looking at someone's palm, understanding the type of that particular person. And second is aging the lines accurately. So first we are doing this series on understanding the type. Now comes down to the question that why it is important and what does the type mean. You know, it just is very simple that you pick any book of palmistry, you'll always get this reference that this is the combination, but basis type the person will get the result. So let's say for example some good combinations which the lines are indicating that the person is going to get married at that age, but that would vary depending on the type. What do I mean by type? So let's say for example the same combination of marriage, that age has come and the person is more Saturnian governed. So in the Saturnian governed case, person might not even want to marry, and if the same yoga and same time comes, the lines are indicating in the life of someone who is more Venusian governed, so person would immediately jump onto that opportunity and will get married on time. So this is all what the importance of understanding the type is. You know, the fundamental principle of palmistry is that our hand has got more sensory nerve fibers from brain than any other part of the body, and you know it has been found in the research that the part of the brain, the center of the brain which is in connection with the hand, so any point of time there will be any variation in that particular organ at part of the brain, that would definitely accompany the different formation of the hand. So for example, just by looking at someone's palm you can get to know that what kind of brain is ruling it. And let's say for example if the brain, the thoughts which is ruling someone's life is more Jupiterian governed, so automatically the mount of the Jupiter and the Jupiter will take prominence in someone's life. And I have already explained to people that when it comes to these different types, that will have a majority say in each and every aspect of someone's life. So the way person think, his ideas, his beliefs, his vulnerability to health and diseases, his attitude towards relationship, towards marriage, the kind of occupation the person choose, the kind of skills the person has will definitely have a say. Like I was telling you, no matter how calm environment you will put a Martian person, the Martian person will automatically have the energy. No matter how gloomy, how dull, how dismal the work environment is, you put a Venusian person over there, someone in whose hand the Venus is very prominent, the person would automatically fill that dark environment with his natural charm, with his natural happiness. So this is all what we need to know in palmistry, that you need to accurately assess the type of someone, and even basis that type you will also get to know the very prominent years of someone's life. So which we are going to discuss here, that if Jupiter is the type of someone, so what all years would remain to be very promising in that particular person's life. And we have already discussed that when it comes to checking the type, there are certain list of parameters. First of all, let's say in the cases of the mounts, the mount could be very full, very round with good height. The mount could be slightly raised or flat, and the worst case is that the mount would spotted to be very depressed and very deficient. When it comes to checking the the state of the mounts, that all comes down to, because the checklist would remain to be different, because the upper mounts of the palm would have a different parameters on which they get judged, because they have these attached fingers. And even in that, the Saturn mount is different, because Saturn mount remains to be very flat. So in the criteria for Saturn mount and Jupiter mount, even on the upper section would remain to be different. And as we know, the mount of moon doesn't have any finger attached to it, so the area, the parameters would remain to be different. So we are going to discuss that individually, that what would remain to be the parameters for each and every mount. And I am not going to repeat all of what I have already explained at the time when we were having a discussion on the Jupiter mount. Like we have discussed what does Jupiter mount represent, the presence of any special signs and symbols, as well as the Vedic correction and remedies. So all of that we have discussed to the core. You can just scroll down to my playlist and you can just spot all those 3 videos which I have exclusively made on the Jupiter mount. Here the main objective is to understand the type, that just by looking at someone's palm, what all are the parameters, the checklist which you need to look at in order to judge whether the person is Jupiter governed or not. And let me tell you very frankly, even in all those cases where you will find the hand to be very flat or the whole hand to be very prominent, where you will get this impression that all the mounts are like prominent in someone's life, even there will be one planet or two planet which will be ruling the life of that particular person. So you need to gain mastery in the science of palmistry. That comes with little bit of the practice. So let's start our discussion on the understanding the Jupiterian type. So when it comes to Jupiterian type, you people know that mounts are in the geography of the hand, mounts are like the hills, and these lines are like the rivers which takes the energies from these mounts and flow across the hand. So mounts are very important in spirituality. They also get seen as the presence of the divine in our life. So when it comes to understanding the Jupiterian type, so this is the portion at the bottom of the index finger is the region allotted to the mount of the Jupiter at the bottom of your index finger. So this is the region which I am talking about. Now comes down to the checklist on which we have to check whether the person is Jupiter governed or not. The first thing is, and the most significance which the attribute which we'll get is the mount itself. So the first thing is, when it comes to the mount of the Jupiter, like the way the archetype qualities of the Jupiter, which are leadership, ambition, spirituality, righteousness, so all that would be seen on this portion as well. Jupiter is a very extrovert planet, like the way when Jupiter is good in astrological chart, Jupiter just expands things, whether in the form of your wealth or whether in the form of your body weight. So Jupiter mount would take that kind of nature only. When this mount is prominent, this mount will not shy away in showing itself in full prominence, in full height, in full roundness. So the very first quality of this mount is that if this mount would remain to be prominent, it will have good height, it will be round, it will be full. So for this particular aspect, you do not need any magnifying glass. Just with your naked eye, you can just look at it on your palm and you will get to know whether this portion is more risen, more protruded, more swollen. So which will just give you an idea that Jupiter mount is prominent. Then the next is, then we have to go a little bit down more into the core. Second thing is, when you have already seen it on the parameters of its fullness, of its height and of its size, so you need to check it on on this the hand held straight, and you also need to look at on this level, on an eye level. This will give you an idea whether the mount of Jupiter is prominent or not. So the first way to look at is the hand held straight, and second is on an eye level. You will get to know whether Jupiter mount is prominent compared to other mounts or not. Second is the axial trirady. Why it is important? Because see, when it comes to checking its peak, many times people do mistake is that they just look at the tip where the mount is showing its maximum height. So that is not the right way of doing it. In a scientific hand analysis, you need to check the presence of axial trirady. Axial trirady is something like this kind of combination which will be getting formed. So this kind of central portion, which is known as the axial trirady, where it is being formed on the mount, whether it is being formed on the center of the mount, below it or above it. So which is going to give you an idea. If the axial trirady, the more upside it is from the center, the more upward it is, the more better it is, the more prominent the mount is. So when it comes to checking its tip, its center, if the more above it is from the center, the more better it is, the more good Jupiterian qualities will be infused in someone's personality. So never get confused by looking at its physical tip. Okay, so that's the one thing, the fullness, height and size, and the presence of axial trirady, whether it is at the center, whether it is or the above the center, which will give it prominence. Second comes the index finger. So on understanding this, you can give 50% weightage to the mount itself. Then comes the presence of index finger, because on the upper mounts the fingers are also attached. So index finger will also get good level of weightage. The first thing is, we need to check whether the finger is low set or high set, because what is going to happen is, let's say for example, if this finger is something like this, the more finger is low set on the palm, the more it will cut down the area of the mount of the Jupiter. It will just cut down the real estate, the mount region, the area. It will cut down the area, which will just decrease the prominence of Jupiter in someone's life. So the high set the finger is, the index finger, the more better is. Second is, whether the finger is short or long. So when it comes to the checking the length of the index finger, you need to check it in conjunction with the ring finger as well as the middle finger as well. So the ideal length of the index finger is that it should be reaching the middle of the top flange of the the mid of the top flange of the middle finger. So if it is reaching till from this is the middle finger, this is the top flange. This is the top flange, this is the second flange, and this is the bottom flange. So if it is reaching till the mid of this flange, then you would just just conclude that the finger is ideally of ideal length. But let's say, for example, if this finger is shorter than that, shorter than the ring finger, shorter than the mid of the top flange, then you will just conclude that the finger is shorter in length, which will just cut down the points. Third is the shape of the finger. Majority of the times what happens is you will find the fingers to be leaning towards other fingers. So with this will just give impression that the finger is giving the qualities, because finger is the representation of the mount. Because if this is the the energy center, energy hub, and this is the like the light bulb, light pole, which is this infusing, which is being getting illuminated using the energy of this mount. So what will happen is, if you'll find this finger to be leaning towards other fingers, so then what would happen is that this energy which index finger represent of the planet Jupiter, this will just give it to other fingers, other mounts, and decreasing the significance of planet Jupiter in someone's life. So the ideal state is that this finger should be high set, this finger should be straight. If this finger would be leaning towards other fingers, this would just indicate that Jupiter is not strongly prominent in someone's life. It is leaning towards mount of the Saturn, the middle finger, which would indicate that Saturn is more prominent in someone's life. So this is one way to look at the shape and the thickness. The more sturdier and thicker the finger is compared to other fingers, the more prominence it would get, and the finger's prominence is nothing. The whole credit will come down to the mounts only. Next comes the knot at the top joint. So generally what happen is, you will majority of the times you will either find little bit of the bump on the top flange, or let's say, for example, in many cases you will find just the fingertip to be slightly bent towards some side, towards either to the middle finger or towards the other side. So this would just tell about the cleverness attached to someone's personality. So what do I mean by that? Any point of time you will find the finger tip, the top flange, to be a little bit bent. This would just indicate that the person is clever, person is sharp, person is adroit in that particular sphere of his life. So if over here you will find the little finger to be a little bit crooked or little bit bent, so this would just tell about that the person is very sharp, very clever in the matters of the finances. Same would go with the ring finger. If you will find the top flange to be a little bit bent, this would just give the impression that the person is not only has got good artistic and creative abilities, but even if person would get into the mode of making money from his art and creativity, the person is going to be very sharp and little bit shrewd in that. So this is what we get the idea from the knot. If there is a, this is even in the knots, the top knot is known as the mental knot, and the second knot is known as the practical knot. So any point of time you will find this to be a little bit bent. This would give additional point to the index finger. Next comes the presence of the special signs. So what is going to happen is that any point of time you will find the presence of the positive special signs on the mount of the Jupiter. This will just also give additional points to the mount. So let's say, for example, you have found, it's the time of Diwali in India and people are cracking, bursting crackers, and you can just hear all these noises. So any point of time you will find any vertical line present of the mount of the Jupiter. This would give additional point to it. And what do I mean by the positive signs? We have discussed that in detail, that the presence of a single deep vertical line is considered as the best on the any mount. This would just heighten the qualities of the mount of Jupiter. It would just act as an antenna pulling all the positive energies of Jupiter in someone's life. Next is the symbol of star, which we have discussed in detail. Symbol of star, symbol of triangle, symbol of trident, symbol of square, all these are the positive signs. Even this large X, these all signs are considered as positive. Symbol of star can just give someone a lot of fame, lot of wealth, lot of popularity. Symbol of square just tells about, it is also known as a teacher's square. It also indicates towards world fame. Person will have good teaching abilities. Person will also acquire good international contacts. The X bar, the symbol of cross, which is not considered good anywhere on the mount, but on the mount of the Jupiter, it just tells about good marital harmony. And the symbol of trident, which also tells about, wisdom, mental acumen. Many palmists have, ascribed this symbol of trident as a sign of, on medical palmistry perspective, that person might face problem related to fits, but in general from mental pursuits, this just symbol of trident also represents good mental qualities. And the last is triangle, which also tells about good political contacts. We have discussed all of that in detail at the time when we were discussing the presence of signs on the mount of the Jupiter. Next comes the presence of negative signs. So any point of time you will find the negative signs on the mount of the Jupiter, this would just decrease the weightage given to the mount. So any point of time you will find symbols like dot, you will find a symbol like net. This is, you will find a symbol of crossbars cutting the lines, or even the circle. These are considered as negative signs. So this would just decrease the signification of the mount of the Jupiter. So if the signs are positive, what all Jupiter represents? Mount of Jupiter, it represents ambition, leadership qualities. Person will excel in that. If the signs are negative, the negative side of the mount of the Jupiter is person will become very egoist. Person will become an autocratic leader. Person will not care for others. Person will not listen to the opinion of others. So the negative qualities of the Jupiter would accentuate and come on surface. So when it comes to checking the type, the 50% weightage will be given to the mount itself, the 20% weightage will be given to the fingers, the 20% weightage will be given to the signs, and the last is the 10% weightage will be given to the other miscellaneous signs, which are, first is color. Any point of time you will find the color of the mount of Jupiter to be a little bit pinkish. When I say these miscellaneous signs, I mean to say you need to check it, their prominence compared to the rest of the hand. So if mount of the Jupiter is prominent, there might be a case that the mount of the Jupiter you will find to be more pink compared to other rest of the palm. This would indicate that the part of the brain connected to this region is more prominent. Person is more Jupiterian governed. So comparatively, more pinkishness on the mount of the Jupiter would also be an add-on point. Next, let's say when it comes to consistency. Consistency is the measure of someone's energy on that particular portion. So let's say, for example, the best state of the consistency is that when you have pressed this portion and you found it to be a little bit elastic, because checking the consistency can come out to be in 4 variation. It could be soft, it could be hard, it could be elastic, or it could be very flabby. So the best state is when you will press it and it will bounce back. It will have a little bit of resilience. So this would just indicate that the mount has energy compared to the rest of the palm. So consistency will also get add-on point. And the last is the presence of the major lines. Any point of time you will find the headline, the lifeline to be originating little bit above from their usual space. This is the usual space. But let's say, for example, if you have found these 2 lines to be originating to be little bit above from the close to the mount of the Jupiter, something like this. So this would also give an indication that Jupiter is very strong. It is it has this kind of gravitational pull which has pulled the 2 major lines on its region, on its territory. So this would also get an additional point. So I'll just culminate the discussion. The mount will get 50% weightage, the finger would get 20% weightage, the signs would get again 20% weightage, and the last would remain to be these miscellaneous 3 things: the color, consistency and major lines, in checking whether someone is Jupiter governed or not. Next comes the 2 things which I promised you that I am going to mention at the time of having a discussion on the types. First is about the promising years. So let's say in your research you have got to know that this person is Jupiter governed, and when I say Jupiter governed, although you do not need to have validate the signs of palmistry with astrology, because they'll be indicating towards the same direction, and palmistry in itself has the potential to come to conclusion, to predict things. But let's say, for example, if you even want to tally it for all those cynicals, so if the Jupiter comes out to be prominent, then even same in the astrological chart, you will either find the Jupiter governed signs to be rising in someone's ascendant, or the person's Jupiter to be exalted in someone's astrological chart, or the majority say of the Jupiter ruled nakshatras. So you will find definitely a sync of what we have discussed in someone's astrological chart as well. Now coming to the most promising years, the most promising years of a Jupiterian person would remain to be the 16 to 22 years of the age, 36 to 42 years of the age, and 55 plus years of the age. So if the person is very strongly Jupiterian type, these years would indicate towards a good success, fulfillment of goals, achievement of titles. So all would happen in someone's life. And 55 plus, I am just meant that 55 years onwards, all those miseries will not trouble if someone has faced in the previous phase of his life. And what has been advised about the physical appearance of someone in the Bhrat Shastra, like the way for palmistry we have the Samudik Shastra, same ways for astrological learnings there is one scripture which is very revered and which has been written by the sage Prashra, known as the Bhrat Shastra. So he has explained that someone who will be strongly Jupiterian type, that person's physical constitution would be like the person will have tawny eyes and hairs. The body would remain to be big. The person will have a medium to strong physique. Person will have very phlegmatic temperament. Person will be phlegmatic, and person's voice would remain to be very influential, and the person will be learned in the Shastras, learned, wise, good education. So person will benefit on all of that. So physically this would remain to be someone's appearance, large pupils, large nose. So this is how you can just even check and match the qualities which we have discussed on the hand in someone's physical constitution as well, physical appearance as well. So this is all what I wanted to say in this. I hope you guys found my video informational. For further more updates and notification on palmistry, please subscribe my channel and like my Facebook page. Thanks.